semiconductor analyst Lucas K. Lucas, Christina mentions that 20 handle on the revenue bogey. Is that the most important number tonight?
It certainly is a very important figure, and thanks so much for having me. I think another figure to keep a close eye on is the data center sales, how the GPUs have sold to the major customers, and kind of what the guidance and outlook on that is, given, as Christina mentioned, that there are still some lingering supply risks and constraints that the overall industry is facing today.
Where's the balance right now in terms of supply, inventory, availability, guidance? Is it the market wants to see some, but some argue you don't want to see too much because that implies maybe a correction coming down the pike?
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing kind of delicate balance between both the supplier being TSMC and Nvidia. We've seen commitments on the foundry end for TSMC to continue to increase that capacity for wafers that are specifically being constrained by these advanced packaging issues that we're seeing today. So I think that during today's earnings, this is going to be a very key thing to monitor. You know, whether they mention ongoing issues or potential roadblocks down the road, or if they can look to diversify some of the supply with maybe domestic partners like an Intel and see how the performance is with them.
Christina, I know that you were going over some analyst notes, you know, in the last couple of days, sort of in the lead up to this. It feels almost like there's no room for any kind of even slight disappointment from Nvidia. What would you say are the biggest, the single biggest risk? I know you went through sort of some caution points with the graphic, but if there was one to watch out for.
It would be growth for 2025, sustainability of this AI trend. And that's what investors want to hear in the outlook. You mentioned analysts. You're seeing price targets of $1,200. I saw that just yesterday. $1,200 for this name that's trading at $683.24. Post earnings tonight, we are expecting some type of move. And you can see with the sell-off that's happening already, there's concerns that the bar is so high. But I'd like to point out to our viewers that post Nvidia earnings, it may drop, but Nvidia has this big AI event on March 18th, and over the last 6 years, on average, the stock has traded 6% higher. So it's usually a positive catalyst, which means the sell-off could be short-lived, could also be an opportunity to get into this name if you haven't and you have FOMO.
That's an interesting point. Lucas, when you're looking, I know your coverage universe expands beyond Nvidia. You mentioned potentially Intel as something that you're looking at here going into these results. I mean, can anyone catch up to Nvidia? And I'm not necessarily talking about just the stock price, but just the momentum and where they are in AI. So many things seem interconnected to Nvidia. Is there any room for another dominant player like this?
Well, the good news for these other chip makers is that this market is still in its early legs and it's growing. For Nvidia, competition will always remain a factor that sort of looms in the background. I point to players like AMD, but also some of their biggest public cloud customers like Amazon or Microsoft or Google that are looking to develop and put more efforts into their custom silicon. Now, the question is, how quickly can they ramp this up, and how soon can they look to displace at least some of the Nvidia dependence that they're seeing? Our experts are actually saying that this move is slower than expected. The custom silicon yields to reach these advanced chips for maybe customers that haven't been doing it as long as Nvidia might take a little longer than expected.